Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of a lovely observation of life, where we are exploring different topics in the consciousness and awakening. If you find any topic interesting or want to know more about it, please leave a comment and I'll make sure to make a video and cover that topic too. So on this podcast, in a lovely observation of life, we are diving into all basically topics covering awakening and what happens and what opens up to us to perceive. And this topic on this beautiful day is psychic science. So extrasensory perceptions. And there are different categories, and we're going to move slowly into these categories. Of course, every time information and educational purposes are being shared, if you are a returning subscriber and a returning listener, you know that experience is the most important thing. Everything that we do in this existence is experiencing each other's reality and seeing what works, because there's so many possibilities if we allow ourselves to be open. And when we are curious in this connection with others, we can learn that, again, everything is possible. Every reality is available if we can create it from a space of being conscious of what we're creating, but also to learn unconscious creations that happens before an awakening. And so what mostly happens in my experience, and of course I always share what I want you to take from this podcast, is the experience. What did I experience compared to what you're going to experience going through this? Because it's a personal journey and it's different. And that's the whole point of it. And so if we can share this more and understand that we can all, this is accessible and available to us all if we are open to it. So again, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So what is psychic science and extrasensory perception, if we just take it in the just educational form of going through it, and then I'm going to move softly in with spirituality into it and with my own experiences. So this topic is it's a very big topic, but I'm going to try to condense it into it being as digestible as possible. And I hope you find this podcast exciting, because it is. I'm going to enjoy this episode because there's so many things here. So let's start with the most obvious one, is clairaudience. The definition is the ability to hear sounds and voices that are not audible to the normal ear, meaning we can perceive messages from spirit or receive guidance through other senses beyond those five. So clairaudience is I feel like this particular extrasensory ability is the one that everyone starts to connect with when they are diving into their awakening. And so the first thing I'm going to share is what happened to me when I started to explore my own abilities in clairaudience. And that was when I was laying in bed and I heard my daughter. She called me and I could hear her loud and clear, as if she was just right beside my bed and saying it to me. You know, when you hear something and the mind perceives that if she was supposed to be speaking to me, it would be me hearing her in another room. But this was clear. She was right there in front of my face. It was her voice and it was clear, like she was right in front of me. And she called my name. She said, "Mommy," in a worried voice, as if she wasn't okay. And in that moment, I went up, went to her bed, noticing that she had fever. And that was the first one where it was really, really, really obvious to me hearing those voices. And so I would also hear voices if I'm in a place. If it's a very stressful environment, I could hear a scream. One time I was in my mother's house when she was alive, and in that bathroom, it was just, I always got this airy feeling in that bathroom. I never enjoyed myself being in there, just always feeling like I'm being watched. And one particular day I was in there and I was taking a bath, and as I stood up, I heard a woman scream in my ear, like she was screaming in pain and agony. And again, it was just like the sound was like if someone stood close to my ear and just screaming. That's how it feels when you are experiencing this. It's like a real voice right there. It's not far away. It's not like thoughts in the mind. It's so real that you want to ask, did anyone hear that? And there's no one there that you can share it with, because all of those moments that it has happened, no one has been there. So it's been difficult to share it with others. That is my clairaudience experience. The other one is clairvoyance. So now, what is clairvoyance? So clairvoyance is to see events, people, or objects that are not present to the senses, okay? So it's often described as seeing beyond the physical realm. Clairvoyance may receive visions or images related to past, present, or future events. And here, if we really think about it, we trust our five senses. If we smell something, it's like we're certain that we're smelling something. And if we taste something, we know what it is. We trust those five senses. But in clairvoyance, it seems to be that there's this skepticism of, if it's not described, I don't trust it. But I find it so strange that we trust our five senses, which are really not that reliable. And you will understand that when you go through a spiritual awakening, because sometimes you can smell someone being present before they're there. You can smell them being there and they haven't even arrived. And you're like, the person is here because I can smell it. And this is when you're activating your clairvoyance. So you're getting into a different dimension of perceiving it. You're getting into beyond the physical realm. So that can start to bleed in to your physical realm, that you're smelling the person like it's standing there. You're smelling it. Something happens, and I can be in a space and the energy just doesn't feel right, and it starts to smell like rotten. And I feel like it's different entities there. And it can be just for a moment, a lot, and then it disappears. It's just like I'm sending the attention to ask, is there something here that is blocking the energy flow? And then I can sense a rotten smell of some kind, and it will disappear after a while. So that will be the answer that you give back. Again, you have to always communicate in order to receive. And it's nothing that's good or bad. You're just asking the question to receive it more correctly. And we have these different energy fields and auras that some can see. So physics science often includes the concept of the energy fields surrounding living beings. Like practitioner might believe that seeing these energy fields or auras and can give an information of someone's emotional and physical state. Like you can see a certain color and you can receive, or you can also, if you want to practice this, you can, it doesn't have to be so, it's all about the attention behind it. So if you set the attention of, I want to know where this person is hurting, and you're practicing this muscle. So for an example, if it's easier for you, because blue is a very simple color for every being to see in different realms. So you would say, if this person is hurting, can I see everything blue in his body that is in pain? And so then you would see that the blue colors of the aura of the person where that pain might be. So again, it's something that we can all tap into. We can all get that muscle by practicing. Again, it is abilities that some have practiced in more lifetimes and others not so many. So I want to say here, in my own experience, the color violet, purple-ish, and gold are the two colors that can never be penetrated by anything negative. So if you want to start a practice yourself to see if it works, or if you're in those stages of awakening where you're starting to perceive very different things and you don't understand, and you feel kind of vulnerable, and you do feel vulnerable, because the higher up you go, the more, it's like you're very sensitive. You can feel everything differently. And so energies can just become very overwhelming. So to be able to have a shield, it's not to be afraid about it. It's just to understand that, okay, right now it is... I'm being very sensitive, and my body is reacting to it, because the body has its story too. The body has its trauma, everything that's been stored. So you can't control what the body is feeling. And now you're in a higher state, so you're supposed to elevate your physical body, your gross body, your emotional body. So there are different layers even to the body. And then it's your astral body. So all of these have to be understood. And so using a color light purple or gold is the most easiest thing to just create a little bit space around you. And to set that intention, because when you visualize, you set that intention and you can practice it more easily. And then the more that you can practice it, it just doesn't even become a visualization. It just becomes setting the attention, and higher beings, which are more intelligent, they just pick up the signal. They just understand even before the thought is even there. Oh, I want to be supported. It has already happened. It's like it's happening before it happens. It's a very surreal and very different experience when it happens to you. So that's why everyone has their own story, and how they will basically enter in different consciousness layers in themselves. So in different parts, I want to say here with the energy fields and seeing them, they're talking about clairvoyance of seeing things in the energy field. In certain times, every time, because this, when you're going through your awakening, it's not like you awakened and wow, this is done. No, it's like you can't be conscious all the time. So there's a 24/7, you know, it's the time, we can't be conscious all the time. That will be exhausting. It's too much energy. But we are constantly more aware, and we are always present. And the more that we can practice being more present, staying in our body, understanding when we're not in our body, is when we can actually tap into these different frequencies so that we can proceed. So in this areas, I would say, when I've been going through different layers of awakening, there always is different pockets in that period of my life where I would see different beings in the night. Like, for an example, when my mother passed, before she passed, I could physically feel someone touching the back of my head, like going into my whole body. Like I could feel, and my body will start to tingle, and it will be too much for the body. And as soon as it was too much, because it happened a couple of times before she passed, and when it started to become too much, I felt like the energy started to back away. So it's like the energy understood. As I perceived, it was my mother's energy. So she was trying to touch me. She was trying to be in contact, but I was saying to her, this is too much for my body. I understand. I'm not afraid. It feels okay, but my body can't handle this because things are happening in here, you know. I'm getting goosebumps, and, you know, it's overwhelming. It's like riding a roller coaster and it never stops. It becomes too much feeling because you're so sensitive to it. So those were the physical things that were happening. But then I would see different things in night times, children, flying beings. It was very strange. And I wasn't judging any of it. But the most interesting aspect of this was that when I would see these different beings, it will always be like before I'm going into a deep sleep, which is usually a theta state, where the brainwave patterns, first it comes from delta, okay? That's our deep sleep, okay? But that's our slowest brainwaves, like from 0.5 to 4 hertz is when we're in the lowest brain waves. But here, just a step further up, we have the theta states. And that's where I'm talking about, the waves that are between 4 to 8 hertz. And it's like a light sleep or relaxation where creativity, and it's like being in a deep, deep meditation. So if you've never meditated and you're going through awakening, which I was in that time, and first I was hesitant because there was always this, okay, but I'm falling asleep. Okay, but I'm just waking up. It might be just the psyche playing its game. You know, it's just like I'm not there 100%. So can I be sure of what I'm seeing? Like the mind will come in and try to cover the topic in such a way. But the more I started to meditate, I started to recognize, oh, but I've been here. This is how it is. So, okay, so this is also real. But it's just like the brain waves are so slow. They've slowed down so much that it's a deep realization, and the dimensions and different layers of existence all of a sudden becomes open to you. So that's what we see. And every time that I will see these beings, when I see them, they would see me, and then they will get scared and try to hide. And I never understood it. I'm like, why are they hiding when they see me? So I tried to avoid letting them know that I could see them, because there was like, they didn't want to be seen. When they noticed, like, oh my God, she can see me, then they got like frightened and wanted to go and hide. Like they will hide, go in the walls. And then there will be different beings, like energetic pathways that goes through my apartment, and I would see them, and I would know that one being is going to pass by here at this time in the night. I don't know where it's going or what's happening, but it will always come in from that wall and go to that place. And it was so strange, but it wasn't scary. It was an understanding, like, this is normal. This is what happens here. And when you are working together with spirit, or wherever you are in your journey, where you are activating all of these different abilities that you're supposed to have. We have different missions that we're supposed to do here. You just have to trust it and allow it, because it is also gifts from your ancestors. So I fully embrace it. But, you know, I knew when I was in it to explain this to just a random person, they would be like, what are you talking about? So you have to be with the spiritual with people that are spiritual, so they can understand that sometimes science can't explain everything, and especially in here. So I want you to, if you're going through awakening and this is what happens to you, you're falling asleep, or you're like waking up lightly and you see something and you're like, what was that? That was not supposed to be there. I'm all by myself. You don't have to freak out. It's completely normal. It's just to allow yourself to whatever wants to come through, to be open, and trust that higher beings know when it's too much for you. If it's a good attention, they will back away. It will not be overwhelming. It's never overwhelming. So when it's overwhelming, it's when the ego tries to take over. The mind wants to redefine and starts to distort. So just as long as you can just, without judging it, without putting any labels on it, just let it happen the way that it wants to, you can practice more your clairvoyance. And then there's one that's similar to it. It's called Clairsentient, and Clairsentient is the ability to sense and feel also beyond the physical sense, but this is more feeling emotion or physical sensations. So like energies from people and places. Like this will be, as an example, and I've felt this many times, you enter a room and you're starting to connect with someone, and all of a sudden you start to have pain in a certain part of your body. And that's when I know that this physical body here has that pain. I could feel their pain. And that's because I'm connecting easier with them. And you might feel this too, that you're in a certain place and all of a sudden you have different pains. That is when you are being very sensitive, very empathic, so that you can actually feel all of those. So you have those natural gifts. And when you're going through awakening, you can be an open, energetic. That's why I'm saying that having gold color or this purple color as a protection protects you from all of a sudden being very sensitive and open. So all those energy starts to penetrate your field. And it creates a lot of pain in your physical body. It can be very overwhelming. So sometimes we need to practice this. Okay, and meditation is very good because you practice, this is my pain body that I'm in. I can feel the pain is going like this, and all of a sudden when you're around people, you start to feel something else. And then you're like, okay, this is not mine. This is someone else. Whose is it? So you have to see, who am I connecting with? And it's often the energetic match that matches your energy. So we can never be with different people like, oh, someone is intruding. No, there's an energy match that happens, and we're supposed to learn a lesson from that. So if it is a pain body, like in Clairsentience, where we are feeling the emotion, and just like when someone is speaking of something, and also when I'm doing tarot card readings, for example, in my channel, if I'm reading something that's very important, or very emotional to someone, I can get emotional as I'm doing the reading. And so then I would say, I'm right there with you. I feel it, because I truly do. I can truly feel what energy that I'm reading to the person is, because I'm feeling it inside myself. I feel the same emotion that that viewer that's looking at my videos are feeling. So that's very much, for me, that's very real. And it's a beautiful, it's a two-sword kind of edge thing that from one point of view, it can be very overwhelming. From a different point of view, it can be very, very beautiful to be able to connect to others and just feel this oneness. So again, it depends on how deep you want to get into it, or what abilities we have first. But again, this is available for everyone. But mostly, if you're going through an awakening, which on this on this podcast, I would say a lovely observation of life. It's just observing these different abilities that will come through and allow them to be there, to not see it as a burden, but more of a gift. As the energies are shifting in Earth, and we are constantly shifting to higher frequency and energies, we have, like, this is the best time to practice your intuition, to practice all of those abilities, because the energies are available to us to do so. So whether we want it or not, everyone is going to have to go into a higher frequency. But if you already are in a higher frequency, then you can have more of those gifts, and those gifts can help others. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why I am sharing and feeling called to do this. So you might feel a calling to do whatever it is that you came here and what your mission is. Because that's, at the end of the day, this is what we're supposed to do. We can all share information. You probably heard this information. You probably know more than I know about these things. That's not the point of it. The point is to see our different perspectives and our different journeys in this. And this is how we learn. This is how we experience ourselves through these. This is what brings human evolution real joy, of learning in this way, not just learning from the mind, but also learning from the heart. And we can have many, there are also many here, I want to say, in Clairsentience, there are many psychic practitioners that engage in energy healing modalities, okay, such as Reiki. So Reiki involves channeling universal life force energy to promote healing or balance within a person. So you would use your hands. And what I can say here, this really works, that if I'm in a meditation and things have happened in the world, we can do a big difference. But we can do this. If you just put your hands out to the world and you visualize seeing the earth in front of you, just like a little globe in front of you, and you're holding your hands and you're saying all of that positive energy that you might not use for that day, you don't want to waste it. You know, it's like a battery. You want to empty it out as much as possible before it gets recharged. Or maybe you have, you always have, you don't have to, you're not even a battery anymore. You're just a real channel of having a lot of energy, and you need to empty it out in a positive way. You can just put out your hands and set the attention that all energies that could have been used to something good but will not be used on this day through me, I ask that the highest uses this tool. And then you just put out your hands and you visualize Earth, and you're sending that light to Earth, and wherever that light needs to go, it will reach there. So you just have to have that attention, and it works every time. It's, if I'm feeling like I'm having too much energy, I can't sleep, I'm in these different phases of having a little bit energy but having super much energy, and I don't want to waste it, and I don't know what to do with it. So then I always do this practice where I'm visualizing Earth and I'm putting out my hands, and just this beautiful. I feel at peace, I feel calm, and I feel like all energy has gone to the places that needs to go. And so we can connect with our angels however you want to call it or put a name on it. Really, the angels are your higher self. So you're connecting to a higher self and a more intelligent being that is us all, really. So that's what you're connecting with. So the intention, they or we in a higher state can feel it more simple. Okay? If that makes sense. So I want to tell you a story about Reiki healing. I went to a practitioner that also is a teacher that gives out certification in Reiki, and I was open to it, but I was also close to it because it was the first time. And I said, I know it works with my hands, but I have to go and see a teacher and see all of this. And so I lay down and I let her touch me. And I had issues with my left side of my body. I was feeling someone else's energy, and I had little blocks on my left side. And then I was laying down and thinking, okay, if she can feel anything, she will feel it from my left side. She'll go to my left side. She literally just went on my right side. And I sat down and she was looking at me strange. And I didn't want to put any judgment. I just wanted to be very clear. And she said, oh, are you working with Reiki? I said, no, I don't. And she said, I can see around you that there's a lot of energy that you do. So I said, okay. But at that moment, I felt like what she did was I didn't go to her teaching to continue. And I still admire people that are trying to do, but I felt like it was too much ego involved there. And when ego gets involved, it wants to take credibility of what they're doing. So if you're just doing something and you don't know, I feel like she should have gone to my left side and check it, because that was where the issue was. She should have found that. So I felt a little bit like it felt a little bit better, but I felt like her ego was blocking her gifts. And that happens a lot to many people that have the gift. And then all of a sudden you start to, that's why when I do my readings in my tarot card, if nothing is coming through, I'm not just adding something to just say something. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be true. And if there's nothing there to add, I'm not adding anything. I'd rather be quiet. And so that's why I feel like many practitioners like this, they all of a sudden, because people say, oh, thank you, you healed me. Oh, that felt wonderful. And they start to believe their ego is like, yeah, I did that. And that's not true. All of these gifts are divine gifts. I'm just a messenger. A messenger can't take credit. If I'm giving a check to someone, they can't be like, oh my God, you made me a millionaire. And if I'm giving someone a ticket that they have to pay, they can't be angry at me, because again, I'm the messenger. The same thing is here. Like when we are spiritual and we do this practice and we're giving, and if you're in this journey and this is happening, try to stay in a space of giving, of not taking any credibility that, oh, I did that. How did you know that it happened? Yeah, I have this. It's not you that are having this gift. You're just a channel, and you're open enough that you can give. And that is a gift. If you can give something freely, that is a gift. Every ability that we have are gifts that we should share with the world. So gifts and abilities that we hold are not meant to be held or to use as being better. It is meant to be shared. That's the whole point of existence. So this is what I want to say here and in this story about Reiki healing. And again, all credibility and nice to her of everyone that she helped. But for me, in my journey right there, it was like, no, that was not a fit. And again, we will, in this journey going through awakening, you will have encounters with practitioners that will not be so good and that will make you hesitate into, what am I really doing? What is this? Because this person was a fraud. And in other times, you will really be with someone that is spiritual and loving, and you will be clear, and you will feel like you elevated so much. It's like this person just lifted you up from a lower frequency to such a high frequency where you're like looking around yourself and like, everything looks different. What happened? It's just people can shift you like that. And again, it's the abilities and the gifts and the attention that you hold and that you make a commitment every day to do. And for me, that's the most important thing. I do that commitment every day, that is my purpose. And so if we move forward to Claircognizance, I love this one. It's one of my favorite. It's knowing something without logical reasoning or evidence. And I had this when I was younger. It was so strange. I could see a clothing piece and I would know that one is the most expensive clothing piece. That car is not so expensive. This motor is not that good. And I could see in the physical world, I could pinpoint things that I will not know. How would I know that? I have no education on it or understanding, but I could just know like that's fake, that's real. That's fake covering to be real, and it does a real good job, but you're still fake. And I could see these things when people talk, when they say, I could be like, no, I don't have a logical explanation to why I know this, but I just know if I'm going to follow with this person, things are not going to be good. It's just, I love that ability. I love that without the logic reason. It's just like something tells you, it can be as simple as thing as something tells you, don't go there today. And you just have this feeling, I'm not going there. And then you hear afterwards, oh my goodness, that was so good that you didn't show up because this happened. And then, and so you're like, how did I even know that? It was like before any logic or knowing that this actually happened. So that's one very interesting Claircognizance. And I want to mention this mediumship. This is involved in communication with spirit and entities from other dimension, often through mediums that serve as a conduct for these messages. So this is often associated with spiritualism, okay? And we can communicate with spirits here and entities from spiritual realm. And mediums can get messages from deceived. And for me, in my experience, when you are connecting with the deceived, you're not connecting with them because they are continuing in a different journey. They have dived into the light, into becoming one again. So the only thing that you can communicate with in medium is when there's a part of their spirit, there's part of their light that hasn't recycled because there's a story that's very strong that they cannot leave until that chapter is closed. So that's why when you see these ghost stories and it's like this soul just needed to be found, especially back in the middle, like back in the old days when there were no easy way to get evidence, and some people just suffered their whole life or suffered a terrible death and all these lies, and they just wanted to be recognized for what happened to them. So that's us as mediums in that time opening up to those that have passed, into allowing that energy to dissipate. So that energy, as soon as it's clear, it's clear. So it's not the physical soul is like, I'm staying here until this is finished. No, it's not. In my experience of how it is, it's not like that. It's just a little particle of light that decided to stay because it's not ready. The story is too strong. So as soon as it's clear out, it dissipates, and the soul has a different journey, or it has come back to do something else, or it's finished. So there are many different ways that it goes through. And again, I'm just saying this from my own experience and also just saying the technical what mediumship is. And we can all, and here there has been many that they can speak to dead people, but they're actually going into the family's energy. So they're picking up from the family what their pains are. And for me, I don't enjoy that you go in and you make others suffer in that way, that you are trying to give them a closed chapter that is from their perspectives of how they want it, because it feels like it becomes a lie because you're feeding into someone else's reality. So you got to be very careful there in mediumship that you're not overstepping a line. You're just clearing energy that needs to be cleared. The person is not there. That's how I've perceived it. So it's not physical. But there are entities that has elevated from this plane into a different frequency plane, and they exist in that reality. Yes, that is true. But when it is a soul ghost, it's just a ghost it's not really there at the end. And continuing to psychometry, practitioners believe that objects can hold energy or memory, and this is true. Here you can obtain information about a person, event by touching an object. Okay, so they hold the items and then they receive impressions or images related to the story. And again, everything is energy. So if you had something dear to you, and again, you have all of these abilities, especially this ability that is psychometry, then you can absolutely feel an object and know the whole story of how the person bought it, what happened, why it is important, and everything connecting to it. Because again, it's energy. That's why people can buy something in their home and all of a sudden they feel like they've invited a ghost just by having this watch. But it's not a ghost. It's just energy connecting to that watch. There's nothing wrong. It can be actually quite fun. But people get scared and they, the ego runs away with the story, and it's like, oh no, now I'm being haunted because of this watch. It's just energy. And so try to see what the story is. Sometimes it could be a tragic story, but it's always energy that wants recognition so that it can dissipate. So it is being recognized and then dissolved peacefully. That's all it is. It just wants recognition. It's like, see me. Just like every human being, like everything that exists sometimes has a moment of saying, can you see me? Can you see I'm here? Yes. Okay. Then it's okay by not being there if it's been seen once. So if I say a story here, there was one friend of mine that she likes to go and retail in secondhand store to buy stuff, and then she bought a wedding dress, and she would say, there's something very strange, because every time I would wear this wedding dress, I'll feel like I'm crazy. I'm this crazy one. And what I felt when she said that, it was exactly just someone like telling me she was not feeling good when she had that dress. So that dress, when you're actually wearing it and you feel crazy, you're feeling the feelings of the person that had that dress. They were not happy in it. And that's one example of how clothes can have. But also, it's good for kids because kids are tiny. When kids are tiny, they change clothes. So they constantly change the energy. It's like a gift from above that their bodies are growing so fast that they have to, clothes have to always be recycled from children that are smaller. That's their gift. But when we stop growing, we can start to accumulate all of that energy in clothes. And what I feel when you're going through awakening in this observation of life, you need to change that wardrobe. If you had something where there are accidents or there's negative memory connected to it, it's better to gift it away than to hold it, Because if you hold it, you hold that energy, and that energy holds you back, because things have memory. So at a certain point, through my awakening, I have this epiphany. I can't have this energy here. If I'm going to elevate, something is telling me, even though I could sell these things, I just need to throw it away. And whoever finds it, let them find it. Because right now I can't deal with what I'm supposed to give away, what is okay. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I just want to clear out this energy. So I threw everything away, everything connecting to a former lover, a relationship, a connection to something, something that was emotional, everything. Just, I released myself. And it was such a nice, fresh thing to do. It was like being free from all of these things that hold memory and kept a lot of space in me. It just felt like a memory bank was all of a sudden cleared. It was like, oh, I can actually have I started having better memory, because my memory bank was finally clear energetically. So it was in a different dimension that this all happened. And in my physical body, it was affecting me that all of a sudden my memory felt wonderful. And so there are these different things that sometimes it's nice to give things away. So give away things that you might feel holds energy, and shift them and try it out, because it really makes a big difference here. So when I did that big shift, because my body was like the same after I was 14, all of my clothes since I was 14 was always in my wardrobe. I never changed. My body never changed. And you know, my size. So I kept all of those clothes. And when I just cleared out, what a difference that was. So if you're going through an awakening in some stage and that happens to you, let it happen. Just give things away, be generous, and don't hold on to things, because things keeps you bound. And when you're in bondage, you can never have freedom. So the more that you can free yourself up from things, the more it's better for you. Let's continue with telepathy. The ability to transmit thoughts or feelings between individuals without using any known human senses. So this involves sharing emotional ideas or even images mentally with each other. And you can find this when you're in relationships that are synchronized, that they are so together that they don't even have to look at each other. They're like, they can already energetically feel each other in each other, that they already know how the other one will respond to whatever is happening. And I feel like that's the most significant thing, that sometimes, or you have a friend and you don't have to do anything, and you just have that one eye contact and you already said the whole story. That is in different layers of telepathy, but some can actually transmute thoughts completely, where I would say, we need to go left here, let's go left here. And if I'm connecting with the person will understand and start to go left. Like, I've been in those situations where that is actually possible. And so this is, again, different layers for everyone where you are, if you can do this telepathy. But you can absolutely, the higher dimensions that you are accessing, or people that you're sitting with in frequencies, absolutely you can share those thoughts and feelings and understanding. I feel telepathy is very fun, but it can be a little bit intimidating. It feels like, is someone in my thoughts? Do they know? You know, you always have to be careful here that the ego or the mind doesn't take over and start to rewrite a story about it, because that's when the confusion always happens. So like I'm going back and saying again, the best thing is to just let it happen and don't put a story or label it or believe that it's going to be better or worse in any scenario. It's just like, okay, now we're sharing thoughts. It seems like this person and we're synchronizing, and I don't know, they're understanding what I'm doing. I understand what they're doing. We have these thoughts, and that's okay. That can be in the moment. And in other moments, you can be not synchronized at all, where you don't understand and you're misinterpreting one another. And, you know, we are all misunderstood at some point. So it's very easy to you know, to be in different frequencies. Another one is precognition. And this is the ability to perceive or predict the future events before they happen. And here I want to say precognition I've had most trouble with, because seeing in the future is not fun. Let me tell you from my own experience. It's not, it doesn't make things easier. Then the mind wants to create a plan of how things are going to work out, and it becomes a mess. And also, just because you can see the future, that's just one possibility. Meaning that if you are good at precognition, you might still end up saying something that won't happen, because it all depends on, everyone has their own free will. So you see a vision of something happening in 1 year, and that is true. But going through that year, all of those people involved in that happening have their free will and might change. So the end result might be different from what you saw in that vision. So I've seen many times where I've seen something and things have happened and changed. And so I never predict, even when I do my tarot cards, I don't want to predict and say, in 3 months, this is going to happen, in 4 months, because I know that it can change. And then that creates a confusion where a person says, okay, but you weren't right. I was right in that moment. But through that moment and in time and space, different decisions are made. And so I might not be right. So for me, I rather avoid putting a time frame when it is. And when I do my prediction, like I do full moon prediction, and it is a cycle, and cycles always work. So I'm reading for the moon and the energy of the people there. And so I know that they are in sync. If you're here returning, that you are in sync with that energy. That's all I'm reading for that month. That's the furthest I can go. To go 6 months in a year, I don't like to set those predictions, because they will change. 99% of the time, they will change. So, and again, I'm not talking bad to anyone who does that, tarot card readers and all of that. It's everyone can do their decision. This is the level of how I'm perceiving it and what I'm supposed to share. And so we all have different, all of us have different missions and different parts that we play and that we're supposed to do here. So really, in conclusions, these forms of psychic abilities are often viewed with skepticism, especially in the scientific community. Again, it is, but they hold significant interest in spiritual and metaphysical circles. So each type might manifest differently depending on the individual and their unique experiences. That's important to remember here. And that, again, scientifically, it's like you can't measure something when there is no tool that has been created to be able to measure that. So how can you see other dimensions when there is no tool that can measure other dimensions? So the same way here, some people, they want that scientific, but they forget the part that what we can see is just what we can perceive with these 5 senses. That is available, and everything that we create is based on that. So if someone needs to create a new tool that will be scientific, it has to be someone from another dimension, understanding a dimension, and then making that tool that can be measured. And again, you have to still be open to see it. So it's a very tricky conversation if one will have with the scientific community. But again, skepticism, all of that, it is a journey that we have. We have different areas within our psyche that we need to lock open. And so everything needs to exist and everything needs to coexist, because this is how we learn from one another. So a scientist needs to be in his science field, because that's the part he's playing in creating and understanding. And spiritual people and spiritual gifts are in the different areas and showing that. So if you're here, you've understood that there's so many different layers in consciousness, that you're not just stuck in those five senses or just what you physically can perceive with your eye, because some of you, or I think many of you that are here, have experienced some form or one or another abilities of all of these 8 that I've spoken about here. And some talk about also parapsychology, which is a subfield formerly investigating paranormal activities. So it is they're trying to study those psychic events, but again, this is a subfield. I'm not going to get into that. Again, we have also skeptical perspectives, and that's that we talked about, that scientists that argue that psychic phenomena is often explained by psychology, that it is a placebo effect or cognitive biases. So the result might be fraud or misinterpreted. That's how that perspective sees it. So we have to also see all perspective and not say, oh, but that's not true, it's all just spirituality. We also have to understand the skeptic perspective. And we also have to understand the psychological perspective as a parapsychology, and to see how they're trying to measure, how they're trying to understand, because we all understand from different point of views. But meditation and altered state of consciousness is the best way to go, because the techniques such as meditation, trance, chanting, where we're chanting, we're repeating something, a prayer, and breath work, are often used to access these psychic abilities. Altered state of consciousness are believed to enhance psychic perception and awareness. So if you meditate more, if something just happens where your consciousness shifts and you're perceiving the world differently, this is when you start to have these psychic perceptions and abilities that will emerge as a result. And I just want to say, don't be afraid and embrace all of those gifts. And wherever you are in that journey, allow it to be naturally, because we can all access these states. We can naturally all tune into this. Of course, it's easier for others and it's harder for some, and it takes a lot of effort. But at the end, we all can reach that goal. We can all perceive and see different dimensions. We can connect beyond everything that we can do in this physical world. In different dimension, we can do so much more easier. We can connect in a deeper level in a spiritual realm than that we can do here in a video. So if we can do this here, the more that you're open, you understand that in different layer of consciousness, we're doing something even more closer than this cannot even be compared to. But again, it's about the journey and understanding that. So always to set the attention. I cannot stress how important it is with everything to set the attention. And the universe will always support you in that way. The angels, your higher self will support you in all of that. It's just setting the attention. And just the same way as I'm setting the attention of this podcast, a lovely observation of light, to be as a guide and a help, but also to transmute this frequency and energy of understanding everything that I'm holding and that you're connecting with here, so that we can elevate and open up and understand each other. Because that is the whole journey of this experience, to be a human in a physical body. So I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. It feels very long. I don't know how long it is, but I'm happy that you're here, and thank you for all of your lovely shares and subscribes. And I hope to see you here in the next lovely observation of life. Have a wonderful day, and I'm sending you all love your way, everyone. Bye.